Welcome once again back to the lab. It is your old Professor Pilk, and if this is your first time here, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. You saw the title, though. Today we are going to get into an unfettered, a complete, honest, but fair breakdown of Pokemon Legends EA. And I promise you, this will be spoiler-free. I'm not going to ruin anything as far as the story goes. A lot of people out there are still debating whether or not they want to buy the game, because it is relatively expensive, and a lot of people ask, will this work on the Switch 1? Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. But I haven't heard any complaints, to be completely honest. We'll cover a little bit more of that when we cover the hot button items later on in the review. But we will not drop any spoilers, and please, guys, in the comments, do not drop any spoilers either. Let people get this story organically, and I'll cover a little bit more of that later on as well. But first things first, I really want to talk about just some basics of the game that I genuinely enjoyed. And one of the first additions here, look at this guy, Lost Pokeballs. If you threw a Pokeball, and let's say for the sake of argument, you missed your mark, this guy will retrieve all those Lost Pokeballs for you. Oh my gosh. One of the best additions, and I don't think anybody even saw it coming. 10 out of 10 addition. Now, the Pokemon Centers are relatively unremarkable. You come in here, you heal your Pokemon. She's also the shop, so you buy stuff from her. Relatively unremarkable, so that, you know, I can't give this high or low marks. It is what it is. Now, I've talked all about the character customization, so I won't talk about this too much, but I did like the options here. So you could obviously change the hair and the color. I actually unlocked a few more colors here recently. They give you some absolutely extensive options for outfits. You can change even the gloves. You can't even see the socks. Now you can change the socks. You can change so much. You can even change her little satchel here in the back. They give you all of the options you could ever want, and then some, and even, apparently, you could, like, mix the belt color from another set with another. It's really crazy. Kudos, absolute kudos to Game Freak, because we asked for this, and they delivered in spades. This went above and beyond anything I think any of us expected. Now, we've got to talk about the map and the battle system. So the map, it is a little limited. I'm going to be the first to admit that. You are only in Lubio City. You don't get to go outside the city. It does work out. It's kind of okay at the end of the day. There are lots of ladders and even these holovators that you can take up to the rooftop. And the rooftop in and of itself is its own little area. There's Pokemon you can hunt up there. I've made plenty of videos on that. I love these spider webs and bridges and things like that where you can go rooftop to rooftop. And if you unlock some of the later jumping and gliding options, let's just go ahead and get a glide going on here, you can really traverse some gaps. It's nice. You can even do a roll and a dash to traverse some gaps. I could traverse this city forever. I know people have said that you can get from side to side in the city in like 2.5 minutes. And while that is true, honestly, even if you go back to like the wild area in Galar, or even worse, Scarlet and Violet, if you have the flying option, you can fly from one side of the map to the other in a shockingly short amount of time. That said, it is a little limited, and once you're kind of done with the underground, you're kind of done with the underground. You might be able to go back to it, but there's not a lot to do under there. They could have done a little bit more, and I think some of the criticisms are a bit warranted. The characters are a bit stagnant. Even in Sword and Shield, you had people walking around. Scarlet and Violet especially. Now, they would respawn in weird areas, but see, these even a Pampor here up in the tree. And you could catch them. You could shiny hunt them. Shiny hunting in this game, oh my gosh. The cool part about shiny hunting in this game is shinies don't disappear often. Unless they have like a fleeing option. But all you have to do is go in here and just respawn at the location, and every single time it repopulates those mons. So every Pokemon within 50 meters right now is just respawning. If one is shiny, it'll save that shiny for me later on. I did a whole video on this where I broke it down, and I came back and there were 2 shinies waiting there. So by the time you get to the post game, if you haven't done any shiny hunting, you will probably have a bunch waiting for you. Getting the shiny charm is a task. You have to complete every single mission, and I mean every single side mission, everything. You've got to do an insane amount to get that. It'll take you a long time. If you want a good post-game experience, that's really kind of your best bet. We'll talk a little bit more of that in a minute. All in all, the map, 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It could have been slightly improved, but I don't really have any major complaints. And that does bring me to the battle system here. When you first go into battle, you have to now, kind of like with Legends Arceus, you have to target somebody, and then you have to extract your mon, and then you've got to choose what moves you're going to do. And what's really nice here is it will subtly tell you what, like, obviously if I try to use Thunder Punch on a Numel, it's not going to work. But Flash Cannon will 1000% work. And what's really nice is once they're knocked out, you have an opportunity to throw a Pokeball, where before in every other game, if that Pokemon's knocked out, it's just knocked out. So that is a thing. Alphas are back. Oh, there's a random... Ow! There's a random Alpha Machop. And here's the one problem I've had. Targeting can be a bit weird. Now, you can use your analog stick to change your target, but once you get multiple targets in like this, it can get tough. It is not for the faint of heart. What's really nice about this system is, especially in PvP, you have to think about your moves. Because unlike before, moves have cooldown time. After you fire off a move, you can't just spam the same move over and over again. Especially PvP, it becomes very skill-based. I think that's fantastic. All in all, I'm going to give the new battle system an 8 out of 10. It is still a little flawed because I've had a lot of situations where... Here's a great example. Throughout the map, you actually have these mega stones, basically, that you have to farm, and you have to use a fighting move to basically interact with them. But any move will interact with them. Case in point, you've got the gunk over here. You need to use a water move to clear that, but if I still try to hit it with Aura Sphere, it'll try to hit it and target it. So sometimes if you're in a battle, and this is a good point over here in Route 19, where you've got all these brambles that have to be targeted by a fire move. If I'm trying to get this Kangaskhan, a lot of times it'll just target the brambles. And that can get frustrating. So it's not perfect. It is a bit flawed. And yes, Megas are back, and even Alphas are back, so... But battle system-wise, obviously, like I said, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's not perfect. It does need a little refinement. And as much as I would love to see it back for Gen 10, honestly, let's keep it unique to the Legends series. Because honestly, that's what's going to separate the two. People are going to anticipate the Legends series above and beyond even the Generational series, because the Generations will introduce new Pokemon and things like that. The Legends series can really be the next level up for people that want a slightly harder game. PvP real quick before we get to the Alphas and the Megas. PvP, I did it. A lot of rewards are locked behind PvP. You've got to do PvP in this game. But I didn't enjoy it. And you do have to have Nintendo Online. So PvP can be really good. The problem I had is every time I spawned in, for whatever reason, I don't know if I just got unlucky, but I always got 3v1. It's a 4-person melee, but I always would spawn in and 3 people would just attack me. I was playing it to get the Megastone for Greninja. By the way, if you want to get that, you have to do that before November 5th, so get on that. It did take about an hour because I literally had to fail my way to the top. Now, you can't fail your way to the top. If you're a hardcore player, if you're super sweaty about it, I'm sure you'll genuinely enjoy it. If I was more competitive, I'd probably give it a higher score, but I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I could see its merits, and it is not a flawed system. It is, however, a system that's easy to abuse, and they even showed it in the original video. You can sneak up on people, but again, that's probably just my experience. That is an alpha Pokemon. You see it's slightly larger, glowing eyes. If you catch it, it'll have some moves that they don't normally have, like a TM or something like that. Alphas are back. And if you catch an alpha, like case in point this Kangaskhan, it can Mega Evolve. So you can have Mega Alphas. You can even Shiny Hunt the Alphas. If you are a collector, great game. And once again, Megas are back. What can I say? Okay, fine. We'll talk about the elephant in the room, the buildings. There are some buildings that you can go into and traverse, and you'll get this nice little loading screen and come in here, and you could go inside there. There's actually a few that you can kind of travel around and go up and down in. Obviously, the museum's a lot of fun. You actually can just go in here and... Oh, it's really neat. I love this. There's a lot of throwbacks from the old game if you come up here. I don't consider this a spoiler. But they've got all the Pokeballs and the Hisuian Pokeballs. And they've got... this is all Lumio City. But if you come over here, there's a bunch of stuff from Legends Arceus, which I absolutely enjoy that immensely. I love the throwback. The original outfits from that game. Just... fantastic. But yeah, I mean, there's buildings you can go in and out of. I think this is one of those features that people kind of over-hated. Let me explain. Let me just go a little further into this. So there's this huge shopping mall over here, and it's kind of both indicative of my point and other people's points, and I'll let you make your decision on this. I'm not going to rate this. So as I go in here, obviously this is a huge shopping mall with a lot of different shops where you can buy clothing. You can actually go buy a bunch of different clothes in here and try a bunch of different things on. Look, you can get all these beanies, and then you can get them in different colors. Lots of different things. But people's biggest argument with this is the fact that while you can go in here, you can't go in these little shops. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of okay with that, and I think it might be a little bit of a hot take, but just realized I'm in front of her again, but whatever. You saw her hat. You can see her hat behind me. When it comes to these aspects of it, think about it rationally. Do you actually want to go inside the shop and look at every rack, or do you just want a quick little window here where it gives you just all of your options? Because if you want a 30 to 40 second cutscene of you walking into each building while you're trying to play the game, that is going to get annoying. Now here it might be a little bit more fun, and I will grant you that. But when it comes to things like the Stone Emporium, let's say I want to buy an old school Mega Stone, or I really want to buy a Thunderstone or something like that. You come over here to the Stone Emporium. If I just want to go to the stone store and just buy some stones, I can do that. Everything I need is right here. Personally, me, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to rate this high or low. I'm going to say to each their own, but I'm kind of okay with that. Because if I had a cutscene every time I wanted to go in and out of here, it would get annoying quick, and we got mad at that 10 years ago. They could split the difference. They could make this like the Pokemon Center. So if they come over here to the Pokemon Center, you can actually just walk in and out of this just like you could in Scarlet and Violet, and everything you need, you just talk to her about for. It's really not that big of a deal. If I'm honest, that might be a give and a take here, and something that would actually, I think, satisfy both people. Because then you don't have the cutscene, but you also do have the ability to walk in and out of the building and interact with things. That might just be something to add for Gen 10 or whatever. Here's the nitty gritty, and I'm going to get into something that's a hot topic here. So here's Hotel Z. This is where you basically spawn in at. This is where most of your story stuff kind of begins, and you will see some beautiful windows that kind of glisten and these beautiful balconies. But if you come over here, a lot of people were really, really mad about the fact that these windows and even the balconies and everything are just flat. It's all just literally JPEGs layered on top of the blocks. I don't think a lot of people are ready for this whole argument, this whole take. Well, I am lucky enough to be playing on the Switch 2. Not everybody will be. A lot of people would be playing this on the Switch 1. That is just a fact. Switch 2s are not kind of that readily adopted, and a lot of people didn't want the Switch 2. A lot of people didn't see the point in it. For the people that are on the Switch 1, be glad that they didn't go overboard with the graphics. Because if you think Scarlet and Violet was bad, imagine for a moment if every single window, every single balcony, all of these bars, all of that were rendered in 3D. And as you go out here into the city, a basically fully open, enormous city, this whole big city basically has to be rendered almost all together. Because otherwise, as you go into different areas, you're going to have a lot of loading time. And it's going to have to load every single one of those pixels. So honestly, I'm okay with it on the grounds that it doesn't cause a lot of lag. If you want something far worse than Scarlet and Violet's frame drops, actually there's balconies right there, shock of shocks. If you wanted that all over the city, you could have it, but I promise you, the game is going to run like trash. The Switch 1, the architecture, the actual architecture was developed in early 2015. We're coming out 11 years of that. 10 years, 1 decade is the difference between the Nintendo Entertainment System, the 8-bit NES, and the N64. If you wanted to play on the Switch 1, it's a hot take, but I'm okay with it on this game. However, going forward, they're going to have to do better. When it comes to the gameplay, it's addicting, it's fun, it is insanely good. I'm going to give the raw gameplay a 9 out of 10. There are moments that definitely could be better, but all said and done, most of those moments are kind of fleeting. 9 out of 10 gameplay. When it comes to the story, now, prior to finishing this game, I will say I was starting to get a little annoyed with certain aspects of the story. It's definitely not the best story we've ever had in Pokemon. Prior to the ending, I was going to give this a 7 out of 10. The story is fun, the story is good. Sometimes characters just kind of come out of nowhere. Key players that appear throughout the story, but that seem to always have some kind of, relative importance behind the scenes, but they never are mentioned prior to that. And honestly, the easiest fix to that would be find some way to at least mention them or have them be some kind of an obstacle throughout the general gameplay. It kind of annoys me, to be completely honest with you. However, the ending, in my honest opinion, as somebody who's played every single Pokemon game, the ending is up there. The ending, and I will not spoil it, I'm not going to even explain it, I'm not even going to try. I will just say, if you play this to fruition, the ending of this game is phenomenal. Top 3, arguably. Personal opinion, and this is probably argumentative, number 1 on the Switch. Because even, I enjoyed the ending to Legends Arceus a lot, and it had like a top 10 moment for me in all gaming, as far as just, well, I don't want to spoil that one in case you haven't played it. If you haven't played it, go play it. It's so good. In my opinion, even better than that, as now that I've kind of sat back and thought about it. Better than Sword and Shield. I think the best on the Switch, in my opinion. But is it the best overall, all things considered? There is a definite argument for Black and White. There are some solid arguments out of there, but it is top 3. So because of that, I'm going to give it a point back, but I'm only going to give it 1 point back. So I'm going to give the story an 8 out of 10. And so overall, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really did enjoy it. Is it worth $70? Absolutely, it's worth $70. So let me put this in perspective. We all know that inflation is insane. Games on the Nintendo Switch 2 could retail up to $90. Game Freak had the option to put a $90 price tag on this, and they said, no, we're not doing that. And they also had an option to put a $10 surcharge on the physical copy, and they didn't do that. I think, honestly, $70 is arguable. It's a lot of money, and a lot of people are struggling right now. But let's also be real. Nintendo games don't go on sale. Pokemon games don't go on sale. Sword and Shield is still a retail. BDSP is still a retail. And I get it. If you can't adopt it today, my honest answer is at some point in the near future, play the game. Borrow the game from a friend. It is not a long game, and it doesn't have a huge amount of replayability, unless you're super into the PvP. You guys go halvesies on it or something. So that's my honest answer. If you have to go halvesies on it, go halvesies on it. $35? $35? You will be blown absolutely away. I think it is a must-play for every Pokemon fan. Is it a perfect game? No, but it is an enjoyable game. It is a fun game. It is not one you will regret. I don't know any honest Pokemon fan that has said, I regret playing this game. That's my argument. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. If you do have something negative to say, tell me how far you got in the game. Before you comment something negative or erroneous or, oh, the windows, the walls, how far did you get in the story? And how many hours do you have in the game? I won't fiddle on any further. Like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll be back with more soon.